Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about David Benavidez versus David Morrell, Adam Azim versus Sergiy Lipinets, and all the other things going on in boxing at the moment. So straight away into the deep. Harry's back, obviously.
Well, hey.
Great stuff. I think we'll start with the Benavidez fight. But David Benavidez beat David Morrell, unanimous decision, reasonably comfortably. I thought it was a good fight.
It was a very good fight. I thought when I caught up with it on Sunday morning, I couldn't believe how exciting it was to watch. And I think, like I was saying to you boys before we came on to do this, I thought Benavidez was very smart. With Morrell had quite a high guard, and all the time he was just knocking that guard down and coming across with the hooks and all. And it was just a very competitive fight. And Benavidez showed now that he's ready for that next step, and that next step now is looking at February 22nd and looking at Artur Beterbiev or Dmitry Bivol as a potential next fight for him. Because where does he go after this? You know, Morrell was the fight that everyone wanted to see. We finally got it. I think it was on Amazon as well, which was a bit of a shock. I didn't watch it on Amazon. Sam found me a Weatherspoons to watch it on, but no, it was a good fight, and it's nice to be watching some more boxing after what was a horrible weekend of watching rugby for myself.
Yeah, that wasn't the best. To be honest, I thought David Morrell actually put a really good showing up for himself in his 12th fight. To be fighting a very good, I was going to say champion like David Benavidez. He is a champion at super middleweight. He's been the interim champion since I think like 2022. Light heavyweight, which seems mental that he still hasn't got a world title at that weight. But yeah, he was impressive. I think Morrell had good patches in the fight, but Benavidez just looked a bit too powerful, a bit too strong.
He looked a lot better in this fight than he did in his last fight against some Ukrainian fella, I think. So he looks like he's at the right weight now. He's got it right, and yeah, he can move on to bigger and better things now.
I think out of the two, Beterbiev Bivol, who do you think it would be a better fight to watch out of the two of them? Because Beterbiev is going to be power on power, whereas I do think Bivol Benavidez is similar to the Bivol Beterbiev fight in terms of power versus skill, but I think Bivol would just be too skillful for Benavidez.
I'd still want to see him fight Canelo.
Yeah.
A super middle.
I don't think
Canelo would want to fight with him.
But he looks huge, Benavidez. I don't know if he'd want to make the way back down again.
Yeah, that'd be the only struggle.
The height difference between the two of them would be obscene. Because Canelo's short. He's not tall at all.
Well, it looks like he's facing Crawford now anyway, but
yeah.
So there could be a potential that down the line we could see that fight then. If Turk-Galashi's willing to put fighters, just put them from one weight into another, yeah.
I stand by the fact I think Canelo Crawford is a bad fight. I think it's too much up for Crawford.
I think it makes sense for them to fight because it'll bring a lot of numbers, won't it? A lot of eyeballs to it. But there is weight categories for a reason.
Yeah, where do we draw the line? Like, at what point do you say, I want to see, I don't know, Anthony Joshua versus Bivol? Because it's two weight classes. It's the same equipment, but that's just obscene. So, like, where do you... I don't know. I think if Crawford beats Canelo, fair play to him. I'll put my hands up and say I'm wrong. Fair play. He's that guy. All of this. But I do think it's going to be one, maybe two weight classes too many.
If he does beat Canelo Crawford, would you then rank him in your top two, pound for pound?
I think he's number one.
I think he's number one.
Because
I think Canelo, probably.
I think not only are you beating someone who's a pound for pound great in Canelo, you're beating someone who you have the worst hand at coming up in those weights, and then you've done so in, it would have to be impressive fashion, or even just like, you don't beat Canelo unless you're Floyd Mayweather and a few others. You just don't beat Canelo. So if he beat Canelo, pound for pound number one right now, absolutely, especially off the back of the last Inoue fight, a little bit disappointing opponent wise. That is a list that kind of fluctuates. And I think it'd be rude to say no to him for that.
Yeah, especially considering the only people who have beat him are Mayweather and Bivol. Like, if he could pull off, I think what would be an upset, especially considering the difference in weight classes, it would be a massive win for him.
Yeah, it's possible. Like, it's doable, but you have to be that much better. And can you be that much better than Canelo at boxing in order to outbox him? I don't think so.
Yeah, there's no many that will outbox him.
Because he's got the chin, hasn't he, Canelo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He's-
he's
so
not
you're
going
not
to
gonna stop
hurt him, is he?
Bivol didn't stop him, did he? That went to
No.
balls, no.
And you look at if you go back to the Triple G fight, some of
Yeah.
the shots he took, both of them took in that fight, by the way, but particularly Canelo took in that fight. You're not going to. Crawford's not going to be able to make a dent in him, so he's going to have to significantly outbox him in a way that I don't think he was even necessarily able to do to Madrimov. He beat Madrimov, but he didn't completely outclass Madrimov. It was a proper chess match. It'd be interesting to see, maybe.
I think that's probably the description of the fight, is a chess match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen and who's going to make the wrong move first. And I think if Crawford makes the wrong move with the weight that Canelo's got, it could be lights out for him, really.
Yeah, he'd have to box really smart, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, we'll. That's sure on some of that. I think it's April, May time. I think they're talking about that for. So we'll circle back round to that. Elsewhere on this card, Stephen Fulton. We've been talking about this in the jorts and the Tims. If you haven't seen it already, search up just Stephen Fulton. I'm sure the fight kit will come up. So cold. I rate it so highly. He looked unreal.
Just looked like he was ready for a street fight, didn't it?
Yeah, proper. It was unbelievable. And the fact that it's not just any old fight. It's a world title fight, a rematch against a guy you've already had a good fight with, off the back of an unimpressive performance last time out, off the back of an Inoue loss. People are counting you out, and you're turning up to your world title fight in certainly what looks like.
Were they proper
jorts and
Timberlands,
Tims.
or
No.
were they just
boxing boots
design?
made to
Okay,
look like
right.
Timberlands, and
But still,
boxing shorts made to look like denim
Wow.
jeans?
wow.
But
It did look good, though.
it looked unreal. It
That's
looked
something that
so
a lot
good.
of boxers are doing now, though, aren't they? They're focusing a lot more on their trunks and trying to be. Well, I know we don't have to talk about it, but Jake Paul's known for having some weird sort of stuff going on with his trunks, and
What I was
Like
going
a
to say
Fulton.
though is we're talking about this. He won, so you talk about it as this. But then when David Haney turned up with whatever those boxing shoes were last time, and then got chinned by Ryan Garcia, you go, "Oh, what's he turning up in those for?" Now you just look stupid. So there is that kind of thin line between. But
I don't think we
I
gave
rate
him
it.
enough credit last week either, because I think we both went against him on the
I know.
prediction. didn't we?
yeah,
So-
even though he won the first match, it was
see, if
just
I was here, we would have had at least one person right with the predictions.
that is a load of
I'm
rubbish.
definitely not a big fan of Brandon Figueroa.
Do we know what Gareth A. Davis predicted? Because that's all that you can tell.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I think it was a good fight actually. It was a good fight, and it was a decent. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I've watched the whole card because I didn't. But Colonel Morton as well fighting on the undercard. Now 7-0. I think he's only still 18,
That's
which is mental to say.
Makes you feel old, don't it?
Yeah, and there's some guy that.
Yeah, he's chasing that fight that's 44-0 world
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's 44-0 without the most credible belt he's got is a.
He's just made it his mission to beat Floyd Mayweather's
But has
unbeaten
done so
record.
by just fighting bums all round.
Quite a smart mind.
But
If
to
you wanna do
market
it, if you wanna do
7-0 18-year-old versus a 44, 43-0, whatever he is, that would be unreal. It'd be so much fun.
Imagine.
Maybe we'll see it. Back over the pond to the UK. Adam Azim, super lightweight champion, only with the IBO belt, but beat Sergiy Lipinets in pretty good fashion, I think.
Oh, he looked so good again, didn't he? He just looks amazing every time you watch him. And Lipinets is a strong competitor, only been beaten by very good fighters, so to pick up the win in the style he did and get that world title sets him up very nicely now, I think.
Yeah, I think it does, and there will always be noise around the Dalton Smith fight because Matchroom have made it so. But to be honest, Adam Azim he's kind of gone his own way to this point and done so very well, and I think by the end of 2025, at this speed, boxers are going to have themselves a fighter they can market an event on a main event in somewhere like London and have a big show. I mean, obviously this was Wembley Arena, it was a big show, don't get me wrong, but they're going to have a real star if he's able to continue at this trajectory, particularly at that weight category where there's some good fighters.
I think every time you watch the both of them, it just makes you more excited for the two of them fighting against each other, and I feel like now with Azim beating Lipinets and Dalton Smith having a win over Zepeda, they've both sort of got that big statement win, and against people who have fought at world title level. I still don't think we shouldn't get the fight until they both got a world title of their own, so you get a unification fight. But really looking forward to watching it. Like you said, it'd be massive British. Like if they can get it in a British arena somewhere, it'd be a huge event, I think.
Who had the more impressive win then? Would you say Dalton Smith, who fought the other week, or Adam Azim on the weekend?
Adam Azim.
I agree, because everyone said, wait a minute, why is he fighting Lipinets?
And
Is it a little bit of Ben Shalom, what are you doing?
And why is Dalton Smith fighting Walid Oiza for the Europe? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's picking up the European. I understand that, but Lipinets is a good fighter.
Yeah.
Yes, he's on the back end of his career, but like you say, people were like, why Lipinets? Like, that's a tough test for the IBO, and he won. So definitely Azim. But that doesn't necessarily mean, I think...
So Azim then, for you then, potentially, Dalton Smith could be by there and Azim could be past him, or do you reckon...
No. Because you can't judge a fight on just their last fight.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they say you're only as good as your last fight, but that's not entirely true. Because Inoue is not only as good as beating the guy he beat, because we know him as better. And I think Dalton Smith has done more. The belt collector he is. He's got everything under the sun, bar a world title.
Yeah, I saw that picture, wasn't it? The cabinet that they had of him. That was good. But for Azim now, who's the names that he could fight now? Because he can't be... I don't mean to make it disrespectful, but he can't be fighting someone like Ouza, whatever his name was. He has to keep the momentum going now and fight a credible name that could get him to that next step out the front door of a world level fight. And, you know, Teofimo Lopez is probably going to be fighting Richardson Hitchens. Jack Catterall's in a fight soon.
Is Hitchens not fighting Keyshawn Davis? Did I make that up?
I think he's fighting Barinchik, Keyshawn Davis.
For the IBF. Someone's fighting, I can't remember. But there's so many good champions at this weight class.
Yeah. Adam Azim. I think that could be like a sort of passing of the torch moment where we actually find out if Adam Azim... Well, we did this weekend, we know he's special, but that's the big task.
Is Josh Taylor signed with Matchroom?
I think he did, yeah, didn't he? I think he did after the Catchwell fight. But do you not think if you're going up against a former undisputed champion of the world, you might as well just fight Dalton Smith for a world title at that point?
Yeah, probably.
You know, the drop off between Dalton Smith and Josh Taylor is even arguable whether there is a drop off in quality. So you might as well just skip out the middleman rather than losing to Josh Taylor and then Matchroom going, oh, well, you couldn't even beat the guy we fed you before, Dalton Smith. You might as well go out in a ball of flames and try out for that fight.
Do you think they fight before the end of the year, Dalton Smith and Adam Azim? Or do you think that's sort of a fight that we look at in 2026?
Right at the end of the year,
I think we know about it by the end of this year. We know it's going to happen, or it's happening, or it's happened by the end of this year. I think it really depends on Boxer. I don't think it depends on Azim. I think Azim will take that fight. I don't think it depends on Shane McGuigan, because I think the McGuigan Jim would take that fight. I think it depends on Ben Shalom and Boxer and whether they will give the green light to Adam Azim to take that fight, and they're willing to risk, like I said, one of their possible future main event stars, the face of Boxer, arguably at the moment, up against Dalton Smith.
I don't think we've even really talked about, like, you've got Jack Catterall in the mix as well in terms of domestically.
He can't even get himself a world title fight,
but like, if obviously Jack Catterall needs to win against Barbosa, but if he can win that and get his world title, and then you've got the winner of Dalton Smith and Azim with multiple world titles, and you've got the winner there against Jack Catterall is another massive British fight as well.
Yeah, and then you've got talk, I think, that they tried to get an Azim fight on the undercard of Eubank Ben, didn't they? And Pierce O'Leary they wouldn't take the fight with. There was somebody else they wouldn't take the fight with, and then Dalton Smith. So I do think, as much as we've said, and I like the pace that Boxer are setting at the moment with their fights and with their events, they need to roll the dice a little bit.
Yeah.
Was
they
Steve
need to roll
Clark
the dice a little
the
bit.
other fighter?
Yes, that rings a bell. Yeah. It was something like that. But
because what was Saturday night? That was 9 rounds he went, so he could potentially fight in April on the Eubank Ben card. But again, you don't want him fighting someone that is way below him, that you get through easily. You want him to fight someone that's going to test him now, and it's all about rolling the dice and keep the momentum going. And he needs some more big wins. And I think Dalton Smith, it's a division that's hard to get a world title fight, ain't it? And
yeah,
we've seen that with Jack Catterall, and I can't believe that when he's fighting next week in Manchester, he's still not fighting for a world title, but he sold out the Co-op Live. So imagine if Dalton Smith Adam Azim fights, Jack Catterall wins a world title, like he said, promoter Ben, and they meet sometime next year in a stadium that could potentially be bigger than some domestic fight that we got coming up in a couple of months.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all. And I think, but also what that division showed you in the form of Liam Parrow, that actually you can be the underdog in a fight and you win one fight and you get yourself a big payday. Yep. And yes, he lost the fight against Richardson Hitchens, but he set himself up for a while now, so he's sorted. It'll be interesting to see. I think that super lightweight division, particularly in this country, has a lot of exciting things to come. Elsewhere, Callum Simpson, talk about pace and activeness at the start. Had a fight early in the year, had a fight here against Elvis Horga, which we'll get onto. But then he's also trying to fill in for Willie Hutchinson
against Zach Parker
in a couple weeks.
It literally feels like he's fought every single weekend since the new year.
Yeah, the guy does not fancy a holiday. He wants to keep going, keep fighting. But onto this one, because Elvis Horga, I love him.
Yeah,
I love him. The soldier, what a man.
Yeah, you were a proper fan of him watching. I weren't expecting a lot from him, to be honest with you, but he gave it a good go for as long as he lasted in it, I think.
Yeah, and he was durable.
Let's be honest, man, he was unorthodox and he was coming in at all angles, and it could have caused Callum Simpson a lot of problems. But like you said, we're just a month into the year and Callum Simpson has fought twice. Yeah. That's what we want to see from boxers, activity. And now he's gaining momentum. And he can see Oakwell Stadium now at the end of the tunnel, where he's going to sell that out in the summer.
Yeah, 20,000 it's been
people.
Agreed, hasn't it? For they're going to have the whole stadium in the summer, and it's looking like a US fighters coming over for it.
Imagine the atmosphere.
Imagine they get Pacheco over for it. I doubt it, but imagine.
That would be unreal.
Because he's come over before, I think. Pacheco in the past, he fought someone in Liverpool, if I'm right. But I could be wrong there. But yeah, just Callum Simpson now, I think he's one of my favourite British fighters, just because he's so active and he's just willing to keep going. And if he fights against Zach Parker on the weekend, which I
don't think he will.
Fair play to him.
I don't think he will.
No.
I really don't think he will, because that's a different
level
thing altogether. This guy, as much as he was
on a week's notice against him.
Yeah, as much as this guy was fun and he was durable, he was a bit shit, wasn't he? Let's be real.
Whoa. Let's not put Elvis down like that. Come on.
He was a bit.
Entertainment.
He was, absolutely. Yeah. There's something I love about a fighter that is losing a fight, still taunting the opposition. There's some.
And he was waving to the crowd as well.
Yeah, it's something so arrogant about that. Just being like, yeah, I'm getting chinned, but come on, bring some more.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I like it. But fair play, Callum Simpson. He's up for a big 2025, and he's standing by that statement, I think. Elsewhere, Scott Forrest.
That was a big
surprise loss. Some people calling it an early stoppage, but he
was getting hit way too easily.
Yeah.
It's like it was a similar issue with his last fight, but you've got to give credit to Ignat. I thought he looked quite impressive, and when he did have him out, he didn't rush or panic like some other fighters did. He was quite calculated with his shots and took him out of there quite well, I thought. I can understand from their point of view with the slight early stoppage, but at the same time, if he'd left it go and he got badly hurt, then people are saying, why haven't you stopped it sooner, when you could see that his legs were gone from underneath him. But it's a big win for Ignat now and sets him up nicely again to challenge against someone else, I think.
He's a prospect coming through, Scott Forrest, and he's a bit like Callum Simpson. He only fought at the start of January, and when you look at his opponent, he's come over to the United Kingdom. He's based in the UK now, and yeah, fair play for him. First round stoppage, and for people saying it was early, I thought Scott Forrest was out of it. I thought he was completely dazed, didn't know where he was, and it was a great stoppage. And there's been a lot of great stoppages on this card. I thought the main event, Steve Gray got it spot on with Lipinets, because that uppercut that Azim hit him with, he was completely out of it. And he had to show him something in that 9th round, and he didn't, and he just got him out of there, saved him for another day. But I think Scott Forrest now potentially came into the fight maybe looking over him, and you can't really do that, can you, against an undefeated opponent? And that's what you want to see your prospects up against, just to see if they're ready for that next step up. And that next step up would be a title fight. But yeah, Orel Ignat deserves all the credit in the world for not only stopping him, but stopping him in the very first round as well. That takes some doing, and it was a great card. I thought JK, what's his name, Jamie TKV,
yeah.
incredible performance against Michael Webster, made him retire in the last round.
Well, it was the corner that pulled him out, and he
Yeah.
weren't too
Yeah.
happy with.
It was just a lot of swinging arms, wasn't it? And
It was always going to be
Yeah.
as that fight.
reminded
It
me a
was
bit
always
of a
gonna
Derek Chisora sort of fight, which I'm probably expecting on Saturday with him and Wallin. If Wallin
Yeah.
actually comes to fight, not box.
be. Yeah, it'll be interesting. You talk about that as prospects need testing,
Mm-hmm.
and Eddie's been quite vocal about that in the last couple of months, and was doubling down on it recently, saying if you're not able to beat fringe English level, British level fighters, then you're not the fighter for me. Junaid Bostan
Yeah.
drew with Bilal Fawaz for an English title.
Another one of my favourite boxers now for Waz.
Yeah, I'd
I
like to
thought
see
he
him in the,
really
in the away
entertaining,
corner
really,
again. He was
yeah.
good fun. What do we make of that?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I think, like you said downstairs to us, getting a draw on a matchroom card against a prospect is a win for the away corner, really. Let's be honest. We saw it with Gavin Gwynn against Cameron Vong, and I didn't really watch the whole fight. I watched the highlights, but from what I saw, Boston started good and just went off it as the fight went on, and Fawaz grew in confidence, and yeah, prospects need testing. Like you said, Boston got tested and potentially got found out that he's not at that level yet, which is fine.
I think it was just a real off night for him. I think that's the worst we'll see Boston. And
Do you know, it was weird as well, because they were watching it, they were up on a stage as well, which must have been a bit weird for the people.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think that's the worst we see of Boston, and I think if they do the rematch, I think he probably beats him in the rematch
Comfortably,
and moves on.
maybe it was a rude awakening.
I think
yeah.
Fawaz sort of missed his opportunity in a way, because he had him hurt or like in a bit of trouble through multiple rounds of this fight, and just instead of stepping on the gas and putting the pressure on, like there was moments he had him in the corner and like could have just gone at him, but just stepped back, taunting him. I was just like, just put it on him.
Is Boston the kind of fighter that if you rush in
Yeah,
and try and pressure him, that's when he catches you, and that's almost what he wanted him to do
yeah, possibly
at times.
Look
And
at
the
the
fact that he didn't
scorecards.
shows
Yeah.
a level of maturity and a level of smartness that actually
97-93 for Waz.
Yeah.
4 rounds.
2 rounds.
2. Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
It's a 2-round swing. If you
Yeah.
lose 2 rounds and you draw,
But I mean, how can you? I don't know. But what I found quite funny as well watching this fight, Sonny Edwards in commentary. You could tell he was putting his mic on mute, but you can also hear it through Darren Barker's mic, him shouting instructions and all, which adds to the value of the commentary. But yeah, he got tested. He has to take the rematch. I think it's a bit like Vong. You can't just you beat Gavin Gwynn. You can't just push him to one side and say, "Oh yeah, I beat him." You didn't beat him comfortably. That's going to stain your career if you don't go and get it right the next time you fight him. And it's the same with Boston now. You know, he hasn't won the English title. He needs to win that before he can make that, you know, to the British, to the Commonwealth, to the European levels.
I think the other thing with Boston as well is he's a great talker. He does a lot of talking, and
Well, that's what we saw in the build-up to this fight
you
as well.
can't do a lot of talking and then draw and then avoid the rematch, because it kind of undermines what you're trying to do. And I do genuinely believe he'll beat him in the rematch, but we'll have to wait and see if that does get happen. Elsewhere on the card as well, there were some impressive performances. George Liddard, mature performance against Derek Azazi. Didn't smash him out of there, but beat him. It was a decent fight.
Close
That's
fight.
a really good win as well, considering Azazi's last fight was obviously against Bentley for that was British title, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So like shows the sort of level that George Liddard is knocking on now. He looked really impressive last year throughout 2024. I seen him in top tier, and you could just tell him and Jimmy Sains both look at that level above. And yeah, it's a good win for, well, bar Boston. The rest of them pretty much clean sweep for Matchroom on Friday night.
But in lots of different ways, actually. You had Lenny Buttigieg, another one I've seen down top tier, fighting James Todd, a Welshman who we've watched.
I love
And James Todd for a
as well.
second time now has given a Matchroom fighter some serious problems.
Great value for money, ain't he?
But differently, or alternatively to last time, Buttigieg kind of proved otherwise and came through it and deservedly got the win. So fair play to him for that. Taylor Bevan, wow,
that shot
was
uppercut.
disgusting.
It was a weekend of the uppercuts, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
that one is probably up there for the best one of the weekend. And he's someone now that you want to keep an eye on. And I think we're going to see something special from Taylor Bevan, and
Yeah.
we could be seeing him with a belt around his waist come the end of 2025.
I don't think we'll see him that early. I don't think they'll rush him that early.
But
to be
you
honest,
talk about rushing him, he's already out again in Ultranum in a couple of weeks.
yes, but he's not. He's not going to be
Pat
fighting.
Brown. No, but
I think.
do you know
Yes, he's come off the amateurs.
fight we need to see him and Aaron Bowen.
Again, though, why? I get it, and I know
It's a
I know
good
they need
narrative
testing,
for his
and it is a good
homecoming.
narrative. But I want to like, if you want to see fighters come good, there is a balance between because it's like I think it was Eubank Senior was talking about this recently, that if you win a world title, for example, at 12, 13, 14, 15 and 0, you're still a novice.
Mm-hmm.
And you're learning on the job, and that's when we see fighters like people like Anthony Joshua that get a world title reasonably early, but then lose it. And I think if you push them too hard, they might win a title, but then when they come in a title defense against a tough fighter, then they end up losing it. And it's kind of like, do you need to rush him? He's only 24. Yes, test him, but don't rush him. It's like there's a difficult balance.
Yeah, I think Matchroom are doing a good job of building a lot of these fighters up. They get building them up slowly, giving them Liddard's the best example, I think, of how they've built him, and now he'd be knocking on the door of sort of British title level by the end of the year, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this card as an idea as a whole is great, isn't it? To get them all on there. And the next one you're looking at, Bevan's on there again. Pat Brown is main eventing it.
Vong
Rhiannon
and
Dixon, Vong and Flynn.
I'm really looking forward to watching
Some
Pat
really
Brown.
good fights.
Yeah.
Especially with how they've built him up. They're putting a lot of sort of... They're stacking behind him quite big, I think.
Yeah.
With that comes pressure, mind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he'll have to. But equally, as a GB Olympian, you kind of think he's used to that.
Yep.
Is there any more pressure than standing up and fighting on the Olympic stage, really?
talking about Olympians, I think Queensbury are going to
say as well
about Delicious Ori could be signing.
they're signing him this morning.
So it's good to see. I think the only one that from the GB Olympics now that hasn't turned over is probably Lewis Richardson.
Yeah,
I
don't know
remember.
about all the female fighters. I don't think they've.
Cindy,
she was not British. She was
she
team
was-
refugee, but I can't remember the other two.
I think
but I
all
think
the
one
Delicious
Pat Brown has, yeah.
Lewis hasn't.
Lewis
but
hasn't.
There's
But
talks of
will.
him. Yeah,
He
sure
will, and I think style-wise, he almost suits the pros more than as much or more than any of them. So it'd be interesting to see that. I think these next gen shows are great. I think it's a solution in the same way as Queensbury have sort of come up with Magnificent Seven as a solution to losing some big fights in over to Riyadh and Ring Magazine and all of this. I think this is Matchroom's equivalent of a solution to that in terms of getting events and fights for their fighters without having to risk or without just shoehorning events in. You kind of have all the youngsters put together.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that all the promotions want to focus on this year is giving more UK shows. Like we didn't get loads last year, especially like big shows.
Well, you can count on one hand how many we had from Boxer.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it'd be nice to see these sort of cards more regular again, and it like I said, gives these fighters coming through and building a name, a bit of a platform to build an audience and things as well. So yeah,
I'm a
it's
big
good.
fan as well of a Friday night fight night. You
Yeah.
can enjoy the
Well,
weekend.
we're getting
then.
Friday, Saturday,
Yeah.
Sunday at this point now.
Yeah, we are. This weekend we got Friday night.
We had it last weekend as well, didn't we, with Clarissa Shields as
Friday
well.
night GBM.
Yeah.
Saturday night
Queensbury.
Queensbury. Sunday Top Tier. I'm gonna be at the GBM show, so there'll be content to come for that one. So
What a card that is. And
Brilliant
you look
card,
at the
yeah.
top tier card.
Yeah, it's really good weekend.
It's good to see that these smaller promotional companies are getting the opportunities now on a big mainstream like DAZN. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, especially Sunday night.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good fights and stuff coming up. But quickly, before we move on to obviously our preview show, which will be coming out later in the week, subscribe if you haven't already. Catch that in your feed. Clarissa Shields.
GOAT.
Do you think?
Greatest woman of all time.
I'm not buying it.
She's the first ever.
I mean, the referee knocked
Undisputed
down her
heavyweight
opponent,
champion.
so did you see that? The referee pushed her opponent down.
Yeah, but we're
And
talking,
the heavyweight card as well, the fight underneath it.
We're talking about a division that has 17 licensed professionals in it. She's fighting a fighter 5-0 at the age of 42. Of course she won the world title. Do you know what I mean?
Did you watch the fight?
Yes.
was like being in a bit of slow motion, wasn't it?
It wasn't great.
Yeah,
it wasn't great, and the knockdown wasn't great. And I just think it's nowhere near as impressive as the likes of Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano have done at the divisions they've done it. I think it's disrespectful to call yourself the greatest woman of all time when you've just beat a 42-year-old at 5-0. Like I do really like Clarissa Shields, but just maybe tone down the energy a bit.
Clip it.
No, do you know what I mean though?
Yeah.
It's difficult though, because you can only beat what's put in front of you. There is no one better she can fight.
But she's made the choice to move up to heavyweight.
Yeah.
To be able to get the different divisions and be able to say I'm the greatest woman of all time. I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion. So she knew what division she was entering. Yeah. She knew which opponent she could only beat in front of her, and they aren't very good. That's no disrespect to the women. They absolute fair play to them. But there's 17 licensed professionals in the whole division. That's nothing.
Yeah, I'd still have Katie Taylor as the greatest female boxer. Personally.
She's probably top
4.
3 or 4, yeah. Definitely top 4.
Talking about some moments as well from that card. I don't know if you boys saw the heavyweight fight.
They went through
it was. I know it was Royal Rumble weekend, but they went over the ropes, through a table, and the referee was still
Have you seen the video?
He got up to like 20.
Yeah, but the ref counted. You just went past 10.
Yeah.
He was just like 11, 12. He was like, one of you need to get up.
Oh, it's all over. As the one guy came in, the guy came into the ring and he stumbled back over.
You need to watch it.
And the guy went, the referee,
crazy.
it's all over now. And I'm like, mate, they've just gone through a table outside the ring.
I'll have to catch up on it because I didn't see it.
That was the funniest moment of the weekend.
Maybe do you know what, actually, now you're saying it, I think I did see it and I presumed it was wrestling on my feed because I did. Is he like over the ropes and just like head first into the commentary table?
It's like a rugby tackle straight out the ring.
Yes, I have seen it. But I just I scrolled way past it because I assumed it was WWE rather than boxing. I'll have to catch up on that.
If it was WWE, it would have been real. So
true, of course, yeah. If anyone's watching, Santa's real as well, guys.
Whoa,
no worries.
Whoa, don't ruin my childhood now. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually care that much. You know, the YouTube clips, I'm sure will benefit from my statement there. But I just do think the energy from Clarissa Shields is a bit disingenuous. I'd rather she was humble and go, I beat her, but you know that I should have done.
I didn't know she was fighting this weekend for an undisputed.
I found out in like midweek.
Yeah. So, who knows?
Yeah,
maybe that's down to the promoter
very
as well.
well,
I think the promoter, Salita Promotions, is a bit... Otto Wallen's come out and talked about him, so yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah. But
allegedly.
All of that's good stuff. Like I said, subscribe to catch our preview next week. And if you haven't already, actually check out our last episode. We spoke to Dr. Sean Aspinall, combat sports nutritionist. Talked all things boxing, UFC, MMA, making weight, Reese Edwards. Really fascinating episode, so check it out. Otherwise, just subscribe to the channel because there's good stuff on there. There's good stuff coming. I think anyway. My mum agrees, so you know that.
Do we agree with him?
Yeah.
Does your mum agree?
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So that's all that matters. Keep your mums happy and subscribe to Bunch of Chants. Tagline. Twitter for updates, Instagram, all that good stuff. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you later in the week.
Punches Chance. Punches Chance podcast.